and support in Indian Wells. Look at this. I mean, this was in Australia. Port 6 literally had a line. I know I'm exaggerating, but it went for miles at the Aussie. It was wild. Wild scenes there. Ally, can you remember a women's star who gets this type of support wherever she goes? Yeah. Well, Taylor Swift, laughter. A 21-year-old Filipino is achieving something that the world's top and Grand Slam winners seem to be unable to. She is breaking the internet, packing stadiums, and causing tournament administrators to worry about crowd control. Now, experts are openly questioning whether she is the greatest attraction in women's tennis. Music, the largest attraction, not the best player. These discussions are very different. Do you believe is Alex Eala now the most intriguing name in women's tennis? Please leave your response in the comments regardless of ranking. Really interested in people's opinions on this. I'd have to say maybe a little bit of Sonia Mears. Back in her heyday, obviously the Indian fans took to her and they followed her all around the globe. Obviously not to this extent, and I think the ceiling that Alex Eala has is obviously that much higher. And music. I'm going to bring in a little boxing here because my dad wanted me to be a boxer, but I chose tennis. But laughter, Manny Pacquiao. Good call. Manny Pacquiao. We saw him when he was at the top of his game, and alongside Roger Federer, he actually had more prize money. So I think that if Eala, can keep doing well with her tennis, who knows? The skies is the limit on the court, off the court. She could be rolling it, if you will. Yeah. Let's begin with a figure that has no right to exist. Music. Alex Eala's news conference before to the tournament at the 171,000 people watched the 2026 Australian Open. 80,000 has been pulled by Novak Djokovic. 9,000 were pulled by Aryna Sabalenka that if necessary, read it again music. Gently. 9,000 people saw the world's top women's players press conference. She is a multi-Grand Slam winner who dominates matches with the type of strength that makes opponents seem to have attended the wrong tournament. Eala attracted over 20 times that amount. Furthermore, no one in the tennis community is acting as if that figure is typical. She's got a smile that lights up a room too, and I remember last year when she beat Fiantek and she kind of did it with a lot of grace and humility, and it was really, for me, it was terrific to see her take that match and watch her play after that and watch her try to continue to progress because I like her game. Obviously, she wants to get better than where she is now, the 32 in the world, but she's got a lot of good eye coordination and ability to take the ball early and redirect. But the fan stuff is always fun for me because whenever you see players from smaller countries, the fans are so passionate when they get up to the top. It's interesting, Ali mentioned Sonia Mears. She has nearly 13 million followers on Instagram. That's 5 million more than Carlos Alcaraz and nearly as many as Alcaraz and Sabalenka combined. So that's how big Sonia Mears was and will be. But IA going to be seeded for the first time at a 1,000 to find out who she will play in the second round. Check out the draw. This is the topic of professional discussion about Alex Eala seems to be in 2026. Not cautious, music, not calculated, and not using the standard diplomatic tennis media vocabulary that portrays everyone as a formidable rival with a promising future. That is no longer the topic of discussion. Sam Querrey and Steve Johnson, two former ATP players, recently sat down and addressed a topic aloud that many in the sport have been silently considering. Is Alex Eala now the most attractive player in women's tennis? Johnson replied in the affirmative. Perhaps, but she's not making progress. Music. Indeed. Since a certain phrase is the largest attraction, that response merits more analysis. Music. The best player is not implied. It does not imply the top ranking. It refers to who assigns seats, disrupts internet servers, and causes organizers to worry about crowd control before a game even begins. Music. In 2026, the argument for Eala is actually hard to refute on that particular issue. This current surge of expert interest really began to grow in Australia. So let's return there. Music. People covering Eala's bouts at the Australian Open reported the environment as crazy with queues that appeared to go on forever. Crowds that, based just on ranking, lacked a rational explanation. The type music of pre-match atmosphere that Grand Slam organizers often associate with top seeds in quarterfinals was created by a player who was rated outside of the top 30 at the time. It seemed more like a concert attendance than a tennis audience due to the massive boisterous Filipino fan presence. Music. For background, players from fervent countries are not the first to exhibit this phenomena. However, even seasoned tennis players are finding it difficult to fit Eala's scope within the comparisons that are already in use. One analyst made a serious comparison to Sonia Mesa when asked who female celebrity receives this type of travel assistance wherever she travels. At the height of her fame, music, MSA had Indian admirers all over the world. And she now has approximately 13 million Instagram followers, roughly 5 million more than Carlos Alcaraz and almost as many as Alcaraz and Sabalenka put together. Genuine cross-cultural impact in tennis looks like that, and specialists now claim that the ceiling is greater. Manny Pacquiao was approached by someone else during the chat, which reveals all the details of the frame of reference being used. At his best, music, Pacquiao was among the most well-known sportsmen worldwide. In the Philippines, his battles were national spectacles. His timetable caused the whole nation to restructure. In terms of total prize money and sponsorship revenue, he was reputedly making as much as Roger Federer during the height of his career. The discourse has clearly strayed from the norm when tennis commentators begin to point to Manny Pacquiao as the closest analogy they can find. Music. To be clear, these similarities are not being made by fans. These are former professional athletes and commentators who have devoted their lives to observing the sport and attempting to maintain objectivity. Music. Since the fan support isn't merely emotional and doesn't originate from nowhere, let's discuss what is truly causing this. Music. Eala is producing something the sport hasn't exactly seen in this precise shape previously due to a certain set of characteristics. First of all, the narrative is very captivating. Eala received training at the Rafael Nadal Academy. She was raised away from home and honed her skills in one of the most fiercely competitive tennis settings in Spain. She rose through the junior levels, won junior Grand Slam championships, and then started the arduous process of turning junior achievement into professional outcomes on the main tour, where, music, as every tennis fan knows, the majority of junior winners quietly vanish. There is a harsh pathway from junior star to serious WTA presence, and music. Most players not fulfill their promise. Eala persevered, and she did it in a manner that struck a profound chord with her waiting and observing fan base. Her victory against the top-ranked player in the world at the time was the type of outcome that changes people's perceptions of a player. Not just because of who she defeated, but also because of the way she responded to it. Music. She didn't need to play out a response for the cameras because of her elegance, poise, music, and humility at that time. Such actions are remembered. It fosters a certain type of loyalty that is difficult to cultivate. Second, she represents a sizable and mostly unexplored market for tennis. One of the world's fastest-growing areas for sports consumption is Southeast Asia. Global sports organizations have spent years attempting to find out how to take advantage of the Philippines and the surrounding region's digital penetration, social media participation, and desire for live sports programming. Music. Eala appeals to more than just that market. She represents that market in a more visible and intimate manner. Music. There is more going on than just sports appreciation. When a Filipino fan listens in to watch her play, travels across a continent to see her at a Grand Slam, or keeps refreshing a webpage until the stream loads, it is the pinnacle of an individual sport's cultural expression. Music. It's seeing someone who resembles you and hails from your hometown compete on the world's largest stages. Rankings don't power that emotional engine. It is based on identity. Additionally, identity evolves more quickly than almost anything else in the sports marketing and media world of 2026. Music. Thirdly, she plays excellent tennis. Influence without performance is a brief narrative. Music. Thus, this portion is crucial. Eala is very talented technically. The hand-eye coordination is superb. Coaches have identified her ability to seize the ball early and reroute it to alter a point's geometry before an opponent has a chance to reset as a true weapon. It is not only aesthetically pleasing, but also structurally sound. The causes issues music that players who are rated higher than her have found difficult to resolve. She had a lot of momentum going into 2026, made significant progress in Dubai, and climbed 16 places in the rankings to a career high of number 31 in late February. Music. Because of that ranking, she has a first round by going into Indian Wells, one of the largest combined tournaments on the circuit. She also has a season record of 106, which indicates that she is participating, winning, and improving. This is not a widely shared tale about a player who has trouble on the court but is well liked on social media. Music. The on-court findings are improving, and the timing of that improvement has coincided with the increase in public awareness in a manner that supports both. This is the moment at which the scenario becomes really intriguing from a structural and business perspective. Music. Directors of tournaments in the Middle East and Southeast Asia have publicly compared her ability to attract crowds to that of Manny Pacquiao. Music. Novak Djokovic has described the rise surrounding her as a good issue for tennis since she has seen everything in the sport and is not readily impressed by anything. You've joined a whole other type of player when Djokovic characterizes your fan following as a positive issue for the sport. Logistical challenges are already being caused by the attendance patterns. Crowds for her bouts that beyond the capacity of the facility. When a player outside of the top 30 generates demand that belongs in a different tier, organizers have to cope with unexpected scenarios. The next event is Indian Wells, and those who are keeping an eye on these matters anticipate strong support from Filipino fans. Music. Sonia Myra's worldwide representation of Indian tennis is the parallel that keeps coming up and is worth considering. Music. MRSA developed a model for how a player from an unconventional tennis market may develop a global fan base that outlived their professional career. Her 13 million Instagram followers are not a result of her being the greatest tennis player of her time, but rather of her significance to a large and fervent following. She was a well-known member of the community and an accomplished tennis player. Music. Eala's ceiling on that dimension is now greater according to the experts. Higher, not gently, not with a lot of qualifications, and that framing is presently supported by the data. Music. A news conference that received 171,000 views compared to Djokovic's 80,000 is hardly an exception. That's a clear indication of who the crowd came to watch. The younger audience who will shape the sports industry's commercial environment over the next 20 years is choosing who to follow on social media. So, that's another fact that has to be addressed. Eala is a member of the generation that grew up here. Brief video material in the moment interaction, behind-the-scenes access, music, and the type of platform presence that transforms a sporting event into a cultural event that can be shared. Her victories spread in interviews. She has a personality that transfers to the film. Warmth and charm are not insignificant qualities in the attention economy of contemporary sports media. But as one commentator expressed it with total honesty, she has a grin that lights up a room. They are what distinguish material that goes viral from stuff that vanishes. In recent years, Coco Gauff established the standard for what a young female athlete with true mass appeal may look like. Music. The capacity to reach people that don't often watch tennis, the economic prospects, and the cultural prominence. Music. Yaya is already garnering similar attention in some countries and surpassing Gauff in raw engagement metrics across Southeast Asia, according to many analysts monitoring this in real time. That phrase is important. There is a significant rating difference between them. Music. Despite being a top 10 player and a Grand Slam winner, Gauff's viewership rise does not like that of a player ranked 31st. Music. It's acting like a larger entity. Additionally, the sports establishment is beginning to realize that her situation defies the conventional wisdom that rankings equate to influence. What does this imply for Eala's music future? Experts are aware that the trajectory is quite thrilling. She is 21 years old and her rise in the ranks coincides with the explosion of her cultural prominence. A 21-year-old player still has a lot of potential to improve both physically and technically. More long runs at important tournaments, more victories against the top 10 players. And the type of consistency that turns a ranking of 31 into a ranking of 15 or 10 are all possible if the on-court performances keep trending higher. Influence and performance together would produce something the women's game hasn't exactly seen before. An athlete who serves as a movement supported by one of the world's most passionate sports countries. Music. Not merely a fantastic talent with a global fan base, competing at the top level in a sport that has a worldwide audience. Music. The experts consistently state that the ceiling is really high, and as of early 2026, the floor is already so outstanding that tournament administrators are having to reorganize their logistics, and past champions are using boxing analogies to find appropriate wording. Music 2 years ago. No serious tennis observer could have predicted that scenario. Yet, that is exactly what they are now facing. These music days, Alexa is more than simply a tennis tale. She is a narrative about audience, culture, and it seems crowd management the finest sort of issue to be. Music. Click like and subscribe if you want to see more analyses like this one on the players who are really changing tennis. There's much more.